Hello and welcome back to my channel, Sunshine Lorena. So in today's video I'm going to be wrapping up all the books that I read in October. I read 9 books, so really good reading month. Yes, they're very good. My October reading was kind of split into 2 halves. So like the first half I read the whole month of October in the UK is Black History Month, so I wanted to read books by authors of various different heritage and backgrounds, and also about, you know, different like Black British history in the UK. So that was the first half, and then the second half I took part in the Fortnight Frights Readathon. I will link to my vlog video so you can see kind of that in more detail. Okay, so first of all I picked up the audiobook My Name Is Why by Lim Say. Now I listened to this on audiobook, and it is actually read by Lim Say himself, and there was a couple of other people also on there for the social work reports and things, the social workers doing that part. So basically what this book is about his childhood. Now Lim Say is a Black British poet, and in this there is parts that you can see that he is a poet, the way it's kind of written and the way he reads it as well. So My Name Is Why is the story of Lim Say's childhood. He grew up in foster care. So for the first 12 years of his life he was with a permanent foster family, and then for the rest he was in children's care homes. Throughout his childhood he thought his name was Norman, and it's not until the end, I think about 1617, that he actually found out that his real name is Lem and his real surname is Say, and that he was Ethiopian. So he had no idea of his heritage growing up. He had quite a tough childhood actually, because he, you know, for 12 years of his life he's with his foster family since he was about a year old, maybe just under. So they were the only true family he knew, and then they kind of put him back into the care system at 12 years old, and he had to, you know, so he had to deal with that. It is a good exposure obviously of how the care system was in the UK at that time. I don't know what it's like now. This was like the 60s and 70s, and yes, because his mother didn't actually want to give him up, but he was taken and put into care. She was a young woman and studying in the UK for a few years, and she did actually, you know, she tried to get him back, and she wasn't able to. So it wasn't until you know, about 16, 17 that he actually found out all of this information, that, you know, his mother never actually wanted to give him up, his true identity, and then he could learn actually where he comes from. It's really good. Audiobook is read by him. 100% recommend it. I don't like to give ratings for autobiographies, as it is very personal to the person who's written it. So yeah, it was a great start to the month. Next I read and listened to an audiobook, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Renee Eddo-Lodge, which this year everyone has been kind of picking that up, and I wanted to do that, and I guess luckily the library had it. They managed, I think they got extra copies of audiobook, because before I couldn't get it from there, so I had that, and I also read the book on my Kindle as well. Great read. I give it 5 stars. It delves into kind of the UK and the history of a little bit of history, Black history, about racism, about I can't say that, institutional racism. I don't know why I'm having a problem saying that right now. It is a really good read. She really delves into it and lets you explore the topics within the book. It is well researched. Read it, you know, it was really good. And yes, there's other books similar to that I want to read as well. I didn't have time in October, but I've got them and I'll be wanting to read them over the next months. But I highly recommend it. Is worth what everyone's been saying about it. Next was Girl, Woman, Other, which I have right here. It is about, there's stories of 12 women, and they are interlinked, mainly Black British women, from various different backgrounds and heritages again, and of different times as well. So I think it's really great, so you get the different generations, so you can see what their experiences are as Black women in the UK. Yes, really great. I've given it 4 stars. I highly recommend it. There is always a lot of hype around this, but I say it's really worth it. Yeah, great job. It also written, I feel like there's a specific name for the style it's written in, which I can think of right now, but there's no kind of capitals and full stops and things. I really enjoyed the way it was written. It might not be for everyone, that style, but it is a great read to see these stories of these 12 women. Great. Next up is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this as part of the Late Night book club. It was their pick for October. So this one, I ended up giving it a 3 star because there's issues that I have with it and things. So basically it's a dark academia style book. It is in a college campus in America, New Hampshire, I think I want to say. And yeah, so basically our main character Richard ends up going to this college and ends up getting his way into the Greek classes because he studied it, I think, at like a junior college at home before he went to this university. And because it's a very exclusive Greek classes, the professor is very particular and only allows a handful of students to study in his classes, which, you know, I think you get the feeling that it's not necessarily their ability but also their backgrounds. They have a bit of money, or like there's certain aesthetics to them that he obviously looks for, because yes, he wouldn't initially allow Richard, but he managed to kind of get his way in there. So it follows this group, and yes, they are very close-knit. Yeah, very close-knit, keep to themselves, don't really socialise and interact with anyone else, and they're very out of touch of what's going on in the world. Like, I remember at one point they mentioned about the man landing on the moon, like, oh, when did that happen? And it's just like, how can you not know that man has landed on the moon? You don't actually know what time this is set. I mean, a TV is mentioned at one point, but yes, it's very much, it could be set in various different periods of time, because there's not very specific references to when it actually has taken place. But yes, they're very exclusive, a little bit like elitist, out of touch. I didn't like a lot of the characters, actually. Yeah, I mean, they're quite eccentric, they're misfits, so they are very much, like, you know, they believe everything as Professor says, and they're like discovering a new way of thinking and away from how people act outside of their class. They're very much going into the whole Greek mythology, what the Greeks did, and yes, they go beyond the boundaries of normality, basically, and something happens that changes their lives forever. Now, basically, before the first chapter, there's a couple of pages and you know what's going to happen already. You already know what's going to happen, who's going to happen to, and then this goes back and tells you the whole story. So I think if I hadn't known what was going to happen, well, not, I'd be fine with knowing what was going to happen, but if I didn't know who it happened to, I think I would have had it, there would be more of a mystery. It is very character driven, which I know is not for everyone, and yeah, like, I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it that fantastic. You know, people seem to have various different opinions from watching the live show with the Late Night Book Club. yes, you know, there's people who are like 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, even like 2 stars. Everyone's kind of all over the place with this. Apparently We Are Villains is supposed to be very similar but better, so I might give that a go in the future. And then it was on to my books for Fortnight Frights. I will briefly go over them. I'm not going to go into too much detail because then I have the vlogs that you can go and see more of my opinions. First up was The Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enriquez. These are a collection of short stories. She's an Argentinian writer, and these are set in the backdrop of post-dictatorship Argentina, which you very much feel throughout these stories, the themes and elements. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. There are some creepy, like it does have creepy, scary vibes in some of them, other ones not so much, but you can very much feel the real horror. It's more like real horror, some of the things that really got to me, and not that it was like you know, ghosts or whatever. There was some like real life horror that obviously exists in post-dictatorship Argentina. I'm really having problems with words today, I'm sorry. No, but I really enjoyed it. It is a book that I definitely think I'm going to reread at some point. I would first of all like to learn a little bit more about Argentina and the history and things, because then I feel like I would be able to get more out of these stories. My favourite, the ones I enjoyed the most out of this one was The Inn. I did enjoy quite a bit. The Dirty Kid was quite good. Adele's House I really enjoyed. The Neighbour's Courtyard, I found that the creepiest. I really enjoyed that, but it really creeped me out. So yes, it's really good. Recommend. I said 5 stars, but I haven't already said I rated it that. Then I read The Year of the Witching, which is a new release for 2020, and this is by Alexis Henderson. This is set in a town place called Bethel. This is like dark fantasy with a little bit of horror as well. I really enjoyed it. So our main character is Emmanuel, and her mother died when she gave birth to her. However, her mother had kind of gone away from how the religion in Bethel, which is a made-up religion, isn't linked to any actual religions we have in this world. And she went to the forest, which is forbidden because there was the witches. There's these 4 witches that when they had the first great battle to win over Bethel. And then, yes, she had Emmanuel, and then she died. And the family, ever since then, have been kind of out of grace. I suppose that's the best way to explain it. They used to have a lot more money because they were in favour of the prophet who is in charge. So yes, they're not doing so great anymore, the family. Emmanuel is a great character. She is always trying to do the right thing, you know, kind of follow the rules, the protocols. Yes, what else can I say without kind of giving it away? Yes, so she ends up actually going into the Rackwords, which is forbidden in Bethel, because it is haunted by the spirits of these 4 witches from the original, when they were having this original battle. And then they gift her the die of her mother, and then things start to kind of go a little bit wrong. Things start happening, and then it's down to Emmanuel basically to kind of figure out what's going on and to stop it. You also have, like, you know, the prophet's son is quite a big part of the story as well, and because he is next, so the prophet, when he dies, it goes to his son, and his son, etc, etc. It's a great story. I really enjoyed it. There is a sequel being written. I can't wait. Hopefully it's next year. I don't know if it's next year or not, but yes, it's really great. Recommend. And I ended up giving this, was 4 stars that I gave this book. I really enjoyed it. I'm not somebody who really reads kind of fantasy or kind of horror-ish books like these ones, but yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So many books. Then it was The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Classic. So there's this painting that gets done of our main character Dorian Gray, if you didn't know, and this portrait, and everyone thinks it's exquisite, and then he makes this kind of comment of like kind of he wishes that he could always stay like this, and essentially he ends up making this deal so that the portrait, only until he does something horrible does this portrait start to change, and which he keeps hidden from people, basically because he doesn't want them to know that he's doing these things. So the portrait takes on first of all his aging process, and also kind of with each horrifying, horrible thing that he does, the picture gets skewed and he starts to look really evil in this portrait, but on the outside no one sees it. I mean, they are suspicious of the things that he does, but it's only reflected in the portrait. So he stays youthful throughout the story, but yes, he does morally not great things, but yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it and I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read The Ghost Bride by Yang Se-jo, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, and this is set in the late 1800s in Malaya, which is now modern day Indonesia, I believe, and basically there's this girl, her father gets a proposal for her to become to be the bride of this family's son. However, he's recently died a few months before, so she'd be a ghost bride, which is not something she's very keen on. I mean, would you? Because basically the family, they haven't been doing well business wise. They've had to shut off rooms in this house they have because it used to be really great, not have as many people working for them, and like this family give them this offer, so that she live in a nice house, have nice things, but she'd be a ghost bride. The book does explore kind of that spirit, afterlife world. There's like different parts of it, like you do get to explore it, and I ended up giving this a 3 star. The book didn't go in the direction that I thought it was based on the synopsis, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I just felt at parts it could have been a bit quicker, it's a bit slow, and yes, I thought other things that would have happened, but it's a good, enjoyable read. There is a Netflix original show which I've started watching now, and already I've only watched the first episode actually, and already I think the adaptation is better than the book, but I need to wait and see. They have changed a few things there. I then read Mexican Gothic by Lorena, and I ended up giving this a 4 star. You've probably seen, everyone seems to be reading this book. It came out I think in the summer, especially in October actually. Quite a few people are reading it just because it's got those gothic, a little bit horror kind of vibes. So this is set in 1950s Mexico, and basically our main character is Noemi. Her father receives a letter from her cousin and it's very frantic and erratic, and he's quite worried about her. He did have a back and forth with the husband, but he is very concerned about the cousin and her well-being. He thinks maybe she needs some sort of kind of psychiatrist or something, like mentally she doesn't seem quite there. It's not her usual self. She did grow up with them because her parents died at a young age, when she was at a young age, so she grew up with them, so they very much know her very well. So he sends Noemi to the husband's house, where he lives with his family, to investigate and find out what's really going on with the cousin. It does sound like there's some weird things happening in the house. It's almost like she alludes to ghosts and things. So Noemi goes. It is very gothic when she first arrives, the misty fog, the way the house is described. They are descended from English people. The family moved there and there's this mine. And then yes, the cousin isn't, she's, when she speaks to Noemi, you get that there's something isn't quite right, but no, Noemi doesn't get to speak to her that much, only a few minutes, and she, they are all very weird. Like, they won't speak at the dinner table. They're in dinner and she's like, like, why? And they only speak English in their house. They don't speak Spanish. But yes, the family is all very odd. and you do get a sense that something's going on. I know Emmy also starts to kind of experience things in this house, and she knows that something isn't quite right. I don't want to say too much than that because I don't want to give anything away. I really did enjoy it. The twist I did not see coming. Like, I knew, you know that there's something going on, but I never expected that. I did not expect that twist. Just, it would have been a 5-star for me if the ending had been a bit better. I felt like there was a couple of things a little bit unfinished. Otherwise, yeah, it would have been a 5-star. It's really good for me personally. I think it's worth the hype. Yeah, it gave me those gothic creepy vibes, and yes, not looked at mushrooms the same since, and I'm not painting my walls green. That's all I'm saying. And that's it. That was my last book of the month. That was 9 book, really great month. I really enjoyed taking part in Fortnight Frights because I did explore horror and those kind of surrounding genres a little bit more, and I definitely would want to pick up a little bit more in that sort of genre because these weren't particularly scary books, and that's kind of what's going to put me off before picking them up. So yeah, great month. November is busy with reading again because I'm going to taking part in the 1,000 Readathon and the Gulmorathon as well. I can leave links to those down below, but yes, a very busy reading month. So next month, probably going to have just as much books, if not more, on my wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, listening to me ramble on about books that I've read. Comment, like, subscribe. Let me know how much books that you read in October yourself, what kind of books you picked up, and if you've read any of the ones I did and what you think of them. So thank you, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!